Hello there, I'm Joshua and welcome to J Productions. Today is our 300th episode, so we're looking at my favourite film directors, so why don't we get right into it. You can go back to my 100th episode if you want to know my 3 favourite movies of all time, and you can go to my 200th episode if you want to know my favourite sci-fi movies, since sci-fi is my favourite genre. So obviously I'm a massive film buff, but I'm also an aspiring filmmaker, and so film directors are very important to me. They guide my choice of film more than the stars and the story. I know a lot of people have their classics like Scorsese, Spielberg, Kubrick, and though I definitely want to give them an honorable mention for being awesome and amazing and just great filmmakers, they're not my favorite. I have a few different ones and a few obvious ones, and I just think it'll be fun to explore them. It's not really in an order, except for maybe the number one, but why don't we just start with Charlie Chaplin. Now, I honestly don't believe there's such thing as a perfect movie, but I think Charlie Chaplin as a kid is the closest we'll ever get to a perfect film. It is just one of the most beautiful films you'll ever see. It is absolutely fantastic. And he's made other great films too. I mean, I love The Circus, I love Modern Times, I love City Lights, and he's a great filmmaker, and stuff like The Great Dictator and The Gold Rush. He just makes fantastic films, and if you're looking to expand your film repertoire, your film knowledge, and you need to get into silent films, I say start with Chaplin. I found Chaplin the easiest way to get into silent films, and though there's definitely kind of two different schools of, you either like Charlie Chaplin or you like Buster Keaton, and of course you can like both, but there's definitely like very distinct kind of silent comic performers and filmmakers, and I'm more in the Charlie Chaplin camp of things. I respect Buster Keaton and I enjoy his work, but Charlie Chaplin just knows how to get me, and I absolutely love what he does. His comic timing, his physical performance, his directing, his composition, it's just fantastic, and I love his work, I love his films, and I love the kid, and I just want to give him a shout out. I think he's a fantastic filmmaker, and you really do need to check out his stuff. And for a writer-director who's really well known for silent films, he wrote and performed one of the greatest speeches in cinema history in The Great Dictator. That speech at the end of that film is one of the greatest pieces of writing that has been put to film, and I know that it's just like all those inspiring things people put on Facebook. I mean, none of them come close to how inspiring and powerful this speech is, and I just say you have to go out, you have to check out his work.
I don't want to rule or conquer anyone. I should like to help everyone if possible. Jew, Gentile, black man, white. We all want to help one another. Human beings are like that. We want to live by each other's happiness, not by each other's misery. We don't want to hate and despise one another. In this world, there's room for everyone.
Okay, my next favorite filmmaker of all time is Edgar Wright.
The thing is, it's good to have rules, but then you want to then kind of like sort of break one just for the hell of it.
Now, Edgar Wright's only done 4 films, and I think they're all fantastic. I love his Cornetto trilogy, I love Scott Pilgrim, and I just think you don't really find a filmmaker with this much energy and this much like technical skill. Like, he has the precision of Kubrick and Fincher, but he just executes it in a crazily energetic and imaginative and fun way. And just like the way he storyboards, his visual style, I just think it's all just like, this is a director that has a vision and can execute that vision exactly the way he saw it, and that vision is always fantastic. It's great, and it's just like so precise, but it never feels like a pretentious film, and like his films never feel pretentious at all, and what he's doing never feels pretentious, and I just respect the hell out of Edgar Wright for that. I love all his films. Hot Fuzz is like my favorite comedy, and it's in my top 10 favorite movies, and And of course, I love The World's End and Shaun of the Dead, and Scott Pilgrim is just a joy. And he's just a massive nerd as well, and that's why I love Edgar Wright. He's a massive nerd, and he knows who his audience is, and just delivers these wonderful films, great performances, great and fantastically precise visual style. His soundtracks are always awesome, and I just enjoy his work because you can just feel how much he loves to do it. And I have mad respect for him for walking off Ant-Man when Marvel was trying to muscle him to do things their way, and I just have mad respect for that, and I just think he's a great filmmaker, and if you haven't seen his stuff, you need to check him out.
Trying to get like a hold out and get original movies made is probably the biggest kind of like sort of risk you can take.
Now we have David Fincher.
The absolutely stellar collection of designers, photographers, editors, musicians, costumers, painters, researchers, electricians, and craftspeople without whom I'd just be a bitter man with a lot of opinions. And
David Fincher is just one of the most technically gifted film directors out there, and he has very precise, like I said, Edgar Wright was precise, but Fincher is precise, like 60 takes for a one shot precise. He's mad, but in a fantastic way that produces fantastic work, and I just love his films. You can go back and check out my thoughts on his filmography right here. And I just like, he's made some great pieces, some masterpieces, and what I really love most about him, other than his visual style, which is very influential onto what I do, is he's kind of like stick it to the man kind of attitude. Like he's not trying to do what the studio wants, and this all started with his first movie, Alien 3, where the studio just kind of strong-armed him and just like took what he was doing and just totally took it off his hands and just made it into what they wanted, and he learned from that. And he just was like, no, it's my way or the highway from now on, and that's why he dropped out of Steve Jobs. And I just have mad respect for him, but he's just a filmic genius. His use of cinematic language, his visual style, camera movement, music in all his films are great. Even though Alien 3 is his worst film, I still actually enjoy it, to be honest. Even though it wasn't able to fully realize his vision, but of course, Social Network, Zodiac, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, remake, you have Seven, The Game, Fight Club. He's just a great filmmaker that he really tries to get into like the perverse sides of society and humanity and explore that, and I think it's absolutely fantastic. His behind the scenes and Edgar Wright's behind the scenes as well, they're all fantastic and very detailed, and you just kind of get a really look into his style and his filmmaking and his method, and I love that. I love that he's open about everything, and he's just a fantastic filmmaker that I definitely love.
I think people are perverts. I've maintained that. That's the foundation of my career.
I couldn't go without mentioning Guillermo del Toro.
You know, there are only two things you can do in art or in narrative and storytelling. You can tell about the good stuff in life, which has always been very boring to me. And you can tell stories about the dark side of life, which has been much more attractive to me.
Guillermo del Toro has made my favorite film of all time, which is Pan's Labyrinth. But the reason I love him is because he loves what he does. He loves his work, he loves every aspect of it, and he just pours out his love into all the films he makes. Even in his flawed films, like even in Mimic, even though the studio, like same thing with Fincher, the studio strong-armed him into doing what they wanted, it's still a gorgeous looking film, and he just has mad love for pop culture, literature, art, and he just infuses that in all his films, from The Devil's Backbone, Pan's Labyrinth, to Hellboy, to Play 2, to Pacific Rim, to Crimson Peak. He just has a love for every kind of form of entertainment and art, and he just infuses that in everything he does. He loves classic novels, Jane Austen novels, Charlotte Bronte. He loves H.P. Lovecraft, Edgar Allan Poe, but he also loves anime and manga and video games and comic books, and he just feels like one of us nerds, and it's great, and he also does great behind the scenes stuff. I'm gonna do a look at his filmography within the next week. I was meaning to do it a while ago, but then I had like a film that I was involved with that I just kind of ate up my time. But yeah, Guillermo del Toro, fantastic filmmaker, and even in his flawed films, you can feel his love. Like, I know Pacific Rim has terrible dialogue, but You can feel his love for the genre, and it just feels like a live-action anime, and it's fantastic in that way. But even when he does his big Hollywood films, like his Hellboys, his Blade 2s, his Pacific Rims, he also makes incredibly artful films like Pan's Labyrinth, Devil's Backbone, Cronus, and even Crimson Peak is a type of film that hasn't been made in like decades. It's a gothic romance, and he just pours out his love for that, and I really enjoyed Crimson Peak, and I have a lot more to say when I go into his filmography next week.
I was used to monsters, I love them, but at a very early age I made a deal with them to allow me to go to the bathroom because I was so afraid I ended up peeing my crib. And we stayed friends.
Possibly my favorite filmmaker of all time, and that is Alfred Hitchcock.
There's a great confusion between the words mystery and suspense. And the two things are absolutely miles apart. You see, mystery is an intellectual process, like in a whodunit. But suspense is essentially an emotional process.
Very few filmmakers are as influential as Alfred Hitchcock. Stanley Kubrick took from him, Steven Spielberg took from him, Ridley Scott. He's just such an incredible and influential filmmaker. David Fincher's taken from him. It's just a perfect example of form and just the way he puts a psychological aspect in all his films, and he really digs into the psychology of the way the audience responds to things, and the editing, and the way he films things. He's an incredibly precise filmmaker. So much so that he's not exactly a great human being a lot of the time. He's definitely treated actors like cattle at times, as puppets for him to manipulate to get performances and stuff out of. And he has been very, very kind of intense with the way his method, but in the end of the day, it produced great films. And just like Rear Window, North by Northwest, Vertigo. He's just made countless and countless of great films. And of course he's had some duds, but even his worst films aren't that bad. They're just bad Hitchcock films. And he's just made classic after classic after classic. And I just have mad respect for him, and his visual style has been very influential, and just the way he makes films, his use of visual language and music and editing, and definitely the acting in his films, because of the periods they were made, isn't the most realistic kind of acting. They do kind of feel a bit stagey, but his films are just fantastic, and you can learn so much. If you want to learn how to make a movie, just watch Hitchcock films, analyze each frame, the way he uses visual language, music, editing, what he does out of his actors, and that's the film school there. He's just great, and he's a fantastic filmmaker, and my favorite filmmaker, and an incredibly influential filmmaker. And though his movies aren't in my top 5 favorite movies of all time, him as a filmmaker is number 1 for me.
I know we're only human. We do go in for these various emotions, call them negative emotions. But when all these are removed, and you can look forward, and the road is clear ahead, and now you're going to create something, I think that's as happy as I would ever want to be.
These are my favorite filmmakers, and they're very influential on the way I approach filmmaking, and the types of movies that I like and love, and the type of movies I want to make, and visual style, and these filmmakers just have been really great guides for me as a massive film fan and as an aspiring filmmaker. So that's all the time we have for today. If you have any thoughts on the filmmakers I talked about today, feel free to comment below. You can my Facebook page, like that, comment there for me, and Twitter, and don't forget to subscribe. Anyway, I'm just Rich. This is J Productions. Just get out there and watch good movies.